welcome to Those Working Fangirls, where we talk all things nerdy, book, TV, movie, pop culture, fandoms, and how they integrate into our adult lives. I'm Christine.
And I'm Natasha.
And today we're going to be talking about reading. We're going to talk about the anticipation of a romantasy burnout. We're going to talk about genre burnout when it comes to reading, the importance of reading widely and switching up the different types of genres you're dabbling into to avoid burnout. It's going to be a hoot. Okay? It's going to be fun because reading is our expertise.
Yes.
We love digging into different themes that relate to that. And so before that, though, of course, we're going to roll on into Snap Crackle Pop Culture News. And wow, we have a shitload to talk about. Do you want me to start us off?
Yes.
All right. Well, exciting thing happened this week. The Grammy nominations dropped for 2024 for the Grammys that will be at the beginning of 2025. And Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift was nominated for Album of the Year alongside of Cowboy Carter, Beyonce, Short and Sweet, Sabrina Carpenter, Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess, Chappell Roan, Brat, Charlie XCX, Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish, and then two albums I've never heard of, Did Jessie Volume 4 and New Blue Sun. I think there was probably not pop, so I'm not as in the know there.
I really want either Sabrina Carpenter or Chappell to win.
I feel like Chappell has this in the bag. Like,
I don't know. Like, and they favor so many people, so
I don't know. I mean, everyone probably wants Beyonce to win because hasn't she never won, even though she's nominated all the time?
Album of the Year? I don't know. I think she should have won. She should have won for Reputation. Not Reputation. Sorry. What was
Renaissance.
the first one? Renaissance. But I don't know if Cowboy Carter is as good as
I think it's
Renaissance.
better, in my opinion, but I think she should have won for Lemonade. Lemonade was like amazing. I like Cowboy Carter better than Renaissance, but I don't know. It does feel like they favor anyone but Beyonce. I do think, though, Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess has been the album of the year from top to bottom. Like the entire album has been everywhere viral. And Chappell has become like this very controversial figure now in the last couple months because she keeps like acting out in ways that aren't seen positively by the media. I know she just fired her management company. I think I saw Billboard was posting about, and then she retweeted it and said, "Y'all suck for this," or like commented saying, "Y'all suck for this," for posting about it. I guess. I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
I feel like she's just been thrust into the limelight so quickly. And she's like, she's a very grounded, down to earth person, but it's just too much for one human to handle all this shit. And maybe she's she's definitely having a very hard time with it. So, and I think it keeps getting like misinterpreted by the media, and then they keep like blowing up over it, like, because it's fun to have headlines that are so clickbaity. So.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people got upset that Ariana wasn't nominated at all in any categories.
And Dua Lipa for Radical Optimism. But I did see a lot of controversy about Charlie XCX being nominated for Brat, and everyone was calling the music on Brat very like lowbrow. In comparison to all the other, in comparison to the lyricists that are on this docket here, yeah, it doesn't really measure up. I think the Apple, like all of the Brat songs lyrically aren't like Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess and Short and Sweet and Tortured Poets Department, but it's a different type of music. So I feel like it's a different ball of bananas, cheese, ball of worms. bucket of worms.
Laura's like, I enjoy Charlie XCX's vibe in some verses, but some of her songs are a bit beep boop for me as a grandma trapped in a chintzy.
Yeah, it definitely is very beep boop bop beep. It's very future. Shot says my hot take is Brat's lyricism is as good as Short and Sweet. Oh, I thought you said isn't. See, Short and Sweet though, there's like lyrics in every second and they're all good. And a lot of Brat is music. Me Espresso is kind of genius. It's like that's that Me Espresso that's keeping you up, and everything in between is so clever and rhymey and confident. I think she's a really talented lyricist. Yeah, it's very campy. But like she's so self-aware of the campiness. Hot take, I'm not on the Sabrina train tomorrow. We need to keep moving. So Fortnite was nominated for Song of the Year and Record of the Year. So T Swift was nominated in like the big 3 categories. And she was nominated for Best like Duo Vocals for The Story of Us with Gracie Abrams. And I was really happy that Gracie Abrams was nominated for something, because I'm maybe her album came out too late to be nominated this year, but I think The Secret of Us is phenomenal. I don't think it actually came out that late, did it? The extra
I think
credit
Sabrina Carpenter's
version
came out much later than hers.
Yeah, or not much later, but like a little later. I think that album is absolutely phenomenal. I've been listening to it now like just constantly, and she is so talented, and I can't get over like how many amazing talented like new generation pop ladies we have coming up. And no one was talking about her being snubbed. Did she not apply? Because you have to nominate your record. I think you have to nominate your record to be nominated. I don't know, but I was sad.
Tamara's like, she's also been nominated for Best New Artist of the Year, and she has 4+ albums already.
No, this is her 6th album. Sabrina Carpenter was nominated for Best New Artist, and yeah, she's like, "What? I'm Best Old Artist. I've been here." Yeah, but I think
rebranded.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't rebrand. She just evolved like every musician does with every album. Just people just had more hits this.
No, there is a very, like, I'm talking about her look, not just like her music. Like there was a very.
But every artist does a very, like a lot of women do that with every album, like Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift.
True, but her original brand wasn't working at all until she rebranded and, I guess, like you said, evolved yourself. But her brand is very strong. Like, that's what you can call it. It's like her brand. And people want to dress like her. They want to have the very, like, hyper feminine sound.
Yeah, but this was last album, too. I mean, people just started to notice.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, I'm not saying it's just from this album. I'm saying, like, her old self was very different than this new self. And this is the new self. The new brand is the one that caught people's eye.
I think it's like this radical confidence that she took on in these last, and all the hits is the ones that are super confident. And that's kind of been her brand.
Yeah. It's also, though, the hair, the outfits, the blush.
Yeah, but you notice that because you know the song. Like, the feather
sure.
And Nonsense.
I think for me, I liked her songs, but I didn't like her until I admired her brand and her style.
That's very Natasha.
Well, there's a lot of people like me.
I know, but it's very Natasha. I mean, I feel like a lot of people also like will like it once they get interested because of a song. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think she would have caught our attention with just the brand. We would have needed to have a hit song.
Yeah, but I do think that there's a broad audience there that she was able to catch because of her brand.
Yeah, but I do think it all stems from, like, she kind of took on a new persona in her music in terms of confidence.
And then you can say brand instead of persona and evolve. It's a brand.
Well, I don't like it because she's a person.
Well, you have to brand yourself. Every person.
I know, but like talking about her like this, she's a human being, and I think that in her songs she's being very human, and she's now talking like a very confident person.
Yeah, and that's all true. But you have to
not
sell.
going to talk about her as a brand. This is what I'm personally not going to talk about her as a brand when I'm talking about her.
But as someone who was in marketing, like I can admire what she's done, and like I can see that like she, even like talking about espresso and coming out with like an espresso coffee, like all of those things were so smart on her.
Of course. And her team. I think she's very smart. I'm just saying, like, talking about her lyrics and her as a person, I think that she herself built this, and I'm talking about her, not her brand. Her brand is great. I'm just saying she is very confident in her new music, and I think that is what stemmed the evolution in this whole branding. Like, the way she dresses is very confident now.
Yes.
And, like, she's really leaned into, like, sexuality and positive... Oh my God, what is the word I'm looking for? Sex positive.
Yeah. Well,
female.
Tamara said celebrity and pop stardom is brand. Celebrity and pop stardom is brand. It's separate from the person she is. They aren't the same.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you about brand. Okay. I'm just talking about her like as a person. No, you're trying to take it as an argument. I'm just trying to talk about her as a human stemming the brand out. Like, it stems from her. Yes. And I'm trying to talk about the like origination of this evolution.
Yes. Okay. Moving on. Also, I thought Levi Jeans was nominated for Best Duo. I think it should have
Levi Jeans.
Beyonce's song with Post Malone.
Oh. It
should have gone to Miley Cyrus and Beyonce, two most wanted.
Yeah, Post Malone gets a lot of accolades. I don't understand really Fortnite. I don't think that's going to win for Song of the Year.
Florida.
Of the Year. Yeah. Florida is much better than Fortnite.
Oh, Miley and Beyonce were nominated in Country Duo. Well, no one heard about that.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to many other things that weren't our pop girlies. But I hope they all win. What have you got for us?
The new Bridget Jones Mad About the Boy trailer dropped. And in the first 5 seconds... they revealed of how she's able to fall in love again. And I'm like kind of sad. Should I say it?
I mean, it's in the trailer.
It's in the trailer. Yeah, so they killed off Colin Farrell.
Yeah, I cannot believe that.
Colin Firth. What the fuck? That's his name.
Yeah, I was like, wait, my brain was like, Farrell.
Yeah, Colin Firth. And I'm a little sad, but this is coming it's going directly to Peacock on February 13th. So it's not going to theaters.
Why would they do that? Why would they ruin her happy ending? Because no one likes Hugh Grant like they like Colin Firth.
She's falling in love with another boy, I guess.
A new one?
Yeah. The guy from One Day.
The youth?
Uh-huh.
The youth from the show.
Yep.
I can't picture him right now.
Also from White Lotus.
Oh. What? Why?
I don't know. He's so young. I don't get it.
I'm so confused. Colin Firth is just like the sweetest presence. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he really balances her out in the movies, the character of Bridget Jones. That makes me really sad. Mm-hmm. I didn't finish. I only watched 2 seconds of the trailer.
I only watched until they told us that they killed off Darcy. I was like, no!
So the White Lotus first clip from season 3 dropped like in the 2025 Max sizzle reel, and it takes place in Thailand, which we kind of knew, but it's hard confirmation now, which is exciting. And there's no date though. And then not the trailer, but like a really quick clip of Daredevil Born Again March 4th. It
was in the Disney Plus trailer, and I think that's where it came from.
Okay. I don't know what's happening. I do know. I was having a panic attack this morning and everything's coming out of my mouth weird. Okay. Daredevil Born Again. We got a date. It's being released March 4th, and there's a teaser that was pulled from a sizzle reel from Disney.
Yes.
And it made me like screech with joy to see the actors playing the characters from Daredevil again.
I'm very excited for the show. It's going to be like 14 episodes. Hopefully it's good.
All right.
Oh, the new Christopher Nolan film.
Yes. Okay, there's been so much casting stuff about the new Christopher Nolan film. I'm so excited. It's set for July 2026 release, right? And we talked about Tom Holland being cast in it. And then Zendaya was cast in it, but rumor is that it's a quick, like only a little bit more than a cameo role that she's going to be in. And then Matt Damon was cast, Anne Hathaway, and Lupita Nyong'o.
Oh, okay. Do we know what it's about or no?
No, I have no idea yet. Okay. It's Christopher Nolan, so it's going to be intricate.
Also, Zendaya and Rob Pattinson have been filming a movie.
Yes,
and we've just been living for all the clips behind the scenes. They look like they could be like the best of friends. Like every time the camera cuts, they just laugh, and it makes me happy.
It's giving such like Harvard College wandering around campus vibes. And I love it.
And he's like in glasses, and his hair's all like poofy. He looks so good.
He looks like peak Rob. Like he looks like when he was filming Twilight-y Rob.
Okay, I think we talked about this in the last episode, but Lifetime's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce inspired Christmas movie is premiering on November 23rd. Have you seen this trailer?
I have seen this trailer. And then there's like the Hallmark one that's like kind of inspired, but it's more like a small town story. We talked about that one too.
I think it's actually they actually make it with the Chiefs.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
because my neighbor is a producer on it. They filmed in Missouri.
Yeah. Do you think you'll watch this or no?
I don't know. It depends on my mood. Like I could see myself getting in a mood where I'm like, I'm just gonna turn it on.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I'm gonna watch it. I always think I like Hallmark or Lifetime movies, and then I put them on. I'm like,
That's what I usually am like. Yeah, they're just like a little too cheesy. The writing's a little too rushed. Sometimes I'm sure there's a cute one.
Yeah, sometimes there's diamonds in the rough.
Diamond in the rough.
I like Netflix making Hallmark type movies. Laura, I agree. I feel like they're a bit better.
I feel like they're both bad, but can be cute.
I like The Holiday, and I liked the A Castle for Christmas. I've seen that one a bunch.
Okay, people announced their sexiest man alive 2024, and it is John Krasinski, which is, fun choice. John Krasinski from The Office and many other things. And did you see that people got together the New Girl cast to be in their sexiest man alive edition 2024?
I saw it, but I didn't stop to read it.
I took a gander at it and looked at the pictures, and it was just really fun to see all the dudes of New Girl back in the same place on a couch together for these pictures. I think Glenn Powell is in it in the issue. A lot of people.
He should have won.
Well, that's who people thought was going to win. John Krasinski, it's his time. Glenn Powell.
Do they pay for that, or do they win it? And then
I think they just win it.
Accept.
Yeah. They accept it. They talk about it a lot on Armchair Expert. They're like Brad
Pitt.
Nope. Bradley Cooper. He's talked about it. When he got the call that he was sexiest man alive, he was thought they were kidding. He thought they were making fun of him. So they just kind of pick, and then you get a call that you're the sexiest man alive. But oh yeah, Benny Bianco is in the issue. And I saw a lot of hate online. I just think it's kind of mean because everyone's just calling him ugly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's the Chad Michael Murray stripping Christmas movie.
I am excited to watch the not Netflix movie with Chad Michael Murray stripping.
I didn't put two of these things down. I just want to quickly say that Wicked premiered in LA and then Australia and Mexico so far. I think London. I'm not sure yet. But I'm having the most grandiose time being able to disassociate from the fucking election and watching all this go down. I cannot wait for this movie. I love the looks. I wasn't excited about it I just am not the biggest fan of Ariana Grande, but I think she's really made me start to love her again. And I love Cynthia Erivo. So
yeah, she's slowly getting me kind of on board, but I haven't been. I feel like a lot of things she's done in the past has made me feel like weird about her.
Me too. I have felt very weird about her. But watching them do all this press and the two of them together, and like Ariana keeps getting so emotional about it, and it's like really cute.
Yeah, I want to like her.
I do too. And it's okay if we don't like her, but I am now officially excited for the movie.
Going to see it. I just don't know if I'll see it in theaters because I don't really have people see it with, and I'm on deadline.
Oh my God. The interview where they asked, how did you change each other for good? Oh my God. I can't even talk about it.
Oh my God. They did that?
Yeah. And Ariana was like unable to talk. She was just like crying.
Oh. Did she eventually talk?
So Cynthia took the question and then Ariana started talking, but it was very sweet. Like how the both, I can't.
Yeah.
Everyone also remember that this is Act 1. I feel like people keep forgetting that
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What do you mean forgetting? They haven't announced it. It's not at the end of the trailer.
It's very confusing how it's just like Wicked and it's like not, they don't say Act 1 or they don't say like Wicked 1. I think it's going to be Wicked and then Wicked 2. But they haven't announced the second one, even though it's all filmed. It's very it's coming out next year.
What?
Yeah.
They have been marketing this so strangely for a 2-part thing. They don't want people to think it's a part 1.
This movie ends at Defying Gravity.
No shit.
Uh-huh.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they don't want people to know that because people don't want to come to part 1s. I bet that's why it hasn't been really widely marketed like that. Because historically, part 1s always do worse than part 2.
I didn't even know there's a 2. No one knew.
No one
knew, guys.
They haven't marketed it at all.
No, they haven't. And I was like, this whole time, I'm like, why are they just calling it Wicked? Because they're like, it's just the first half.
This is so wild. It was interesting to me. That's part of like watching the trailer. I was like, wow, it looks like they're going in way more detail.
Yeah.
Than the play.
But yeah, the reviews have been overwhelmingly positive. I've seen people's reactions after the movie and like they're filming themselves, and very emotional audience. So be prepared.
Last thing we have today is that there is a book out called Attached to the Hip, which is a Survivor rom-com spinoff that I wrote. I'm an author and my book's out. I don't know if you've heard in the last 37 episodes or so. But it's out and it's my favorite book and that I've written. It's not my favorite book of all time because that'd be weird because I wrote it, but I do really love it. And if you haven't read it yet, there is a link in the show notes. This is my 3rd novel, and if you have read it and you enjoyed it, it would be really, really wonderful and helpful to me in my career if you could take a second to review it on whatever platform you read it on, whether that be like
Review it.
If you read it on Amazon, if you read it on Audible, if you got it at Barnes & Noble, like any of those platforms, reviewing wherever is so helpful to new people finding the book. That's how those websites push to new people. The algorithm looks, which books are getting reviewed and gets pushed that way. So thank you if you've already done that. I really, really appreciate it. What right now? What have you been reading?
I'm still reading Immortal Dark. It's the vampire book, and I took a break from it, and I'm back on it, and hopefully going to finish soon because I want to move on to something that's like not so, I guess, dark. I want to move on to like a holiday book or something. I like to read for the seasons.
Nice. Are you almost done?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
I read When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson, and I love it so much. And I spent the whole second half just like on the verge of tears from how beautiful and cute and funny and wonderful and heart-wrenching and heartwarming all of the scenes were. Jandy Nelson is a master of her craft. Like the weaving together of this family. So When the World Tips Over is about this family that lives in this town that has like like random quirky magical attributes, and like sometimes it's not on the map, and like it's up in Northern California, like it's a wine country town, and we follow this one family, and there's a 13-year-old girl named Dizzy, or maybe she's 12, her name's Dizzy, and she can see smells, like color. There's color when she sees smells, like synesthesia. And her brother Miles is like perfect, and she feels like she can't relate to him because he's like straight A's and on like the sports teams and stuff, and he doesn't really talk to her. He just always has his head in his book, or he's doing volunteer work. And Miles can talk to dogs telepathically, and it's like the coolest. And he's actually really struggling, and he's trying to maintain this like perfect persona, and he feels like he can't relate to his siblings. And the oldest, Winton, is like the rebel child, and he was in jail for a night like a month ago, and they're like dealing with the fallout from that. And he's a violinist, and like when he plays the violin, it's like fucking magic. Like the flowers bloom, and everyone turns to look, and it's just like surreal. And their mom is a professional chef, and she runs a restaurant, and her souffles are like said to like make people fall in love when they take a bite. And it's all these little quirks combine in such a beautiful way to just add this whimsicalness to this story about these different family members trying to like figure out how to love each other and find themselves in the world. And their father's been missing since the oldest was 7. And, you know, it's about like trying to reconnect this whole family. And there's like a curse on their family from generations past, and they're like trying to break it. And it's so hard to explain. It's like one of those books that's like so good, but when you explain it, it sounds so random and chaotic.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
I'm like,
okay, but it's called When the World Tips Over. It's a treat to read. Like, I feel so much when I'm reading these books, and the audiobook is excellent. Okay, there's a reason this book took 10 years to write. Like, explaining it is so hard, and I can't imagine her trying to put all of these stories into this book in the perfect way she did, but she did. And it's fantastic. Like in the first chapter, Dizzy, the 12-year-old, has like a near-death experience. She gets bullied at school, she runs away, and she almost gets hit by a car, like a truck, and she gets pushed out of the way at the very last second by this girl with rainbow hair, and she's like, an angel saved me today. And she's like one of those girls that like never stops talking, and she's so excited about everything, but like that some people just ignore her when she's talking because she never stops talking. And it's just like her journey is adorable. But then the other brother also has a near-death experience and also gets saved by like the girl who she thinks is an angel, and it's like this mystery trying to figure out where's their dad and who's this angel, and like, oh, it's so good. Anyway, the audiobook, Julia Whelan voices the mother. It's like a star-studded audiobook cast, so highly recommend the audiobook. I fucking loved it. Shayla is saying it's kind of giving Encanto. It does kind of give Encanto. It has like that vibe, like through family generations and like trying to fit different family dynamics together. It kind of also gives like Malibu Rising, except like if you made it super quirky.
I've never read a Jandy Nelson book.
Oh my God. I'll Give You the Sun is one of my favorite books of all time. And this one has, entered the realm. Which sibling was my favorite? In the end, I think Dizzy. the youngest. But I love them all. And I love Sandro the dog so much. I love talking dogs.
Wait, the dog talks, or are you in its mind?
He talks telepathically to Miles.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Sorry. You read that in like a week?
2 days.
Oh my God, Christine.
I had the audiobook on constantly. I was just like in it. I was like in a state of like constant, like emotional, like whatever was going on in the book was going on with me.
You're also working on your book right now.
How
did you do that?
It was actually like really inspiring me. Like, because I love her writing so much. Like when I read books that like I think the writing is so beautiful, it just inspires me to be better. So it's helpful. It refilled my well. Like I needed to read something like that.
what have you been watching?
I started Dark Matter from Apple TV.
Yeah, how far did you get in?
I got in 10 minutes into episode 2, and I was like, if I continue watching this, I'm going to be fucked because I will be sucked in, and I cannot right now.
What
about you?
Christine told me to watch. Well, she told me that your best friend Katie was watching it, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. I did want to watch that.
Yeah, no, Katie was like, it's amazing. You have to watch it. And I was like, okay, I want to immediately. And then I told Natasha about it, and she started on it before I could get to it.
Yep.
And I think, did you finish?
No, we did not. Alex and I, first of all, we finished Rivals. I feel like this show has been getting a lot of attention on TikTok, but I'm just going to be here to tell you all that you must watch it if you are a book girly. This was originally a book, which I really want to read now, and it's only the first part of it, and it's set in the 80s. It's
the whole season's like the first part of one book.
Wow. And we follow a TV journalist, and he gets hired to work in the Cotswolds, and his family all moves there. He's got a daughter who's like 20 years old, a son who's 21, and another daughter who's like 16 or something, and the daughter who's like 20. It's like she's one of the main characters, and we follow her, and we follow the dad who's Aidan Turner, and they kind of intertwine their lives with all these people in the Cotswolds. There's other like lords and ladies that they hang out with, and we follow a he's kind of like a rake. So Alex was like, after we finished it, he's like, kind of like if Bridgerton was also Succession. That's how it was. There's lots of little romances and people getting together. It's so good. I'm obsessed. And the guy what's the character's name? There's Taggy and Rupert? No. There's a whole age gap romance. You guys must watch it. It was addicting. Anyways, so after we finished that, we started Dark Matter. I think we're about 5 or 6 episodes in. Alex wasn't super sold on it. Like we watched the first episode and we're like, oh, okay, this is good. And then we watched the second episode. We're like, okay. So we definitely want to finish it. I just
wasn't feeling as passionate about it.
I really like it, but he wasn't as passionate about it. Yeah.
I just want to mention that this is also full of little romances, and they're the most adorable things I've ever seen, and everyone has their romance going on, and
She's
I love
talking about the Jandy Nelson book.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, no one can see me. I'm talking about When the World Tips Over.
Abby, I was talking about Rivals, and you're going to like it. You're going to love it.
You're going to like it.
It's on Hulu and Disney Plus. Just because it's on Hulu and Disney Plus doesn't mean that there's literally full frontal nudity and so much sex. So.
I think that we should... Everything is now Hulu / Disney Plus because Disney Plus is like merging with Hulu.
Yeah.
So it's not Disney anymore. It's Hulu.
It's Hulu.
Like under the Disney umbrella. But did you see Glenn Powell is in this new show that's going to be on Disney Hulu about like a football player?
Is that the one that he was filming during the football? Alex was watching the game and they like paused the game and Glenn Powell and the whole crew came out and filmed. Yeah.
Oh my God. No, I mean, I bet that is because I just saw a trailer for it for the first time.
Oh, wow.
But how
that
interesting.
was filmed like a month ago.
Maybe they just filmed one specific scene like with a whole stadium of people.
Mm-hmm. I also started the Great British Bake Off.
A huge favorite of everybody in the world.
So many people love the Great British Bake Off. I was like, oh my God, the overwhelming DMs I got of people like, I love that show. And I'm like, okay. I knew it was well loved. And I just am not like that big of a fan of reality competition shows. But then I started watching I started watching Dancing with the Stars, and now I'm watching the Great British Bake Off. So maybe I am.
Yeah, I never got into Great British Bake Off, but everybody loves it so much.
Mm-hmm.
So. I didn't watch any movies this week. Did you?
I watched a dumb Hallmark movie called Christmas in Notting Hill. It's with the guy from Narnia.
I don't remember him, but I do I could kind of picture him.
Seems like
brown hair guy.
Yeah.
Prince Caspian.
No, that's Ben Barnes.
Oh.
I'm talking.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about the oldest brother.
I did not put that together.
Yeah, that's Ben Barnes.
Wow.
I'm talking about the oldest brother.
Brown-haired guy.
He's blonde.
Blonde-haired guy. I don't remember this movie.
All right. Anyways, I watched that. It was Silly Dum Dum.
All right. Nice.
It's on Netflix.
Well, it's always nice to watch a silly movie every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We are going to move on into our main discussion, genre Burnout. All right. Reading Burnout. But first, I want to take a second and thank everybody out there listening. Thank you so much for listening to our show and being a part of our podcast community. We really, really appreciate all of y'all. If you're not already, we'd love it if you follow the podcast for free in your favorite podcast listening app, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Pocket Cast. You can just follow the show for free, and that way you don't miss an episode, and you'll always be notified when there's new content. And if you like to watch the visual show, we're on YouTube. Every show has a visual version on youtube.com/@thosworkingfangirls, and you could subscribe there for free so you never miss an episode on YouTube. And we have a Patreon. This is a listener supported podcast. We could not do this every week without your support. We don't really have sponsors. We just have like those little ads. So we literally, this is how we do this every week. Thank you so much to our patrons who are already patroning. But if you're interested in joining our Patreon community, our Patreon is linked in the show notes. It's patreon.com/thoseforkingfangirls. And we've got a lot of fun perks over there. At the Team Jacob $5 level, you get the show ad-free. You get to come to recordings, be in the chat, be a part of the conversation live, which ends up, being a part of the show. And you also get our weekly extra perk called Fangirl Tea Time, which is a half an hour longer show where we talk about more personal topics, more personal things going on in our lives, lots of fun stories, and we really get to know each other really well, which is really nice. And then we've got two other tiers, Team Edward and Team Polis Bananas. You get bonus episodes with Team Edward, and then with Team Polis Bananas, we do fangirl bonding sessions every month with our Team Polis Bananas listeners, and it's so much fun getting to know y'all better and putting faces to names. And if you want to be a part of all that, the link is in the show notes, and you can get a 7-day free trial for Team Jacob if you want to try it out before you commit. Yee! All right, y'all. If you're a patron, we're rolling right on into the main discussion. If not, we will see you after these messages. And we are back. All right, genre Burnout. So when I was thinking about genre Burnout, I started thinking about readers who have come on board the reading train since 2020, 2022, the TikTok era. And I think a lot of them probably haven't experienced it yet or are just starting to experience it now because it takes a few years of obsession for it to hit. And I find it's so genre burnout is like when you start getting tired of it happened to us with dystopian or paranormal romance. We're going to go through all the eras. But when you start getting tired of reading because you keep seeing the same tropes, and so you start being able to predict all the big plot twists, because when you're living in that genre 24/7, you become acquainted with all of the basic beats of that type of a story. And you start to be like, this is bad because I predicted it, even though it's not bad. You've just been reading the same type of book over and over again for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, and you need to switch it up. And I feel like there's the danger of new readers getting stopped from reading more because they start to get tired of their one genre that they've been stuck in. But you just have to read something different because each genre has its niche tropes. So I want to open this up to, let's start by talking about our first genre, Burnout. Natasha, do you remember? What was it about?
I didn't get started into reading until Twilight. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening right now. It's like everyone was reading Twilight back in 2007, 2008. And then the movie came out and everyone was like, meh. But like, it's been 4 years and people are still hyperfixating on ACOTAR. And of course we have Fourth Wing now. And it's so exciting that there's like another book series that gets people to read again. And they go from the next one to the next one. Like we were like, you and I were the same, where we were like, we need to read the next Twilight. And like, what else is going to give us this feeling that Twilight gave us? So I feel like I went very heavy into the paranormal romance realm.
We did.
And I was also reading Twilight fan fiction at the same time.
Oh, God.
There was massive burnout, I think.
Do you remember the book that you were like, fuck this?
It was Evermore.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Oh, God.
Fuck that book.
Fuck that series.
Tortured me.
The whole concept, guys, of this book, like, it was so
We
Twilight.
talked about this in our like books you forgot existed. The Evermore. It wasn't even so Twilight because it was like it went on forever.
The whole point of the series was that these two characters couldn't have sex. And it was a YA novel. And or else they would like
5
kill
or
each
6
other.
novels long of them not being able to have sex.
Yeah. And like the first book I was like, oh, okay. And the second book was called Blue Moon.
It
I'm
was
like,
literally
this
New
is-
Moon.
And I was just, oh my God, I was just so done. But the book that saved me, now I was reading like other like hometown romances at that time in the YA section. I didn't love them though, because I was like, Hunger Games pulled me out of that. I remember like someone in my dance class being like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm reading this book and I'm kind of like bored of the series. And she's like, oh, I'm going to start reading Hunger Games. I'm like, oh, what is that? And I had never read a dystopian before, anything
Hunger
like
Games
that.
Started it. The new wave.
Yeah. And I read that and I was hooked.
Yep. Hook, line, and sinker for that series.
What about you? But that was like 3-4 years.
It was at least 3 years. I really quickly want to touch on something Abby said in the chat. Like, I feel burnout so hard and fan fiction burnout. Book clubs are great because it forces you to reset and read something different. I am okay. So book clubs, I just want to talk about book clubs for half a second here because this resonates so hard. Book explosion is the reason why I have read so many different things. Yeah. Book clubs are so great because in the moment, and you have to actually read the book, but like in the moment, you're like, oh, it's so annoying. I'm not really interested in this. But that book opens your brain up to so much new shit. Even if you didn't really like it, you learn so much from different styles of books. And it's really important to read widely. We're going to get into that. But yeah, the first burnout for me was the Twilight Age as well. And I just remember I was so sick of werewolves. I was like, I don't like reading about werewolves. I hate this. And there were so many werewolves coming up. And Shiver, I just couldn't. That series, I never could get into. I was trying to force myself so hard to like it. And I did not like it. And it wasn't even regular werewolves. Like, it was complicated and science in it. And it didn't make sense to me, the science. And I was just like, ah! But I think what really stands out to me during, like, the end of that age, of course, Hunger Games. Loved that. But, and really got into dystopian as well. But Anna and the French Kiss was so different to me at that time because I'd never read a regular contemporary romance. Like, I never read Sarah Dessen.
Yeah, I was all up in that.
I missed that stage, and I think I was a little old for it by the time that I knew that she existed. But Anna and the French Kiss was perfect timing. I read it as I was studying abroad. Like, it was, and if you don't know, Anna is going to senior year, I think, in Paris at the American school in Paris. So she is studying abroad and falling in love. And I was just like, it just felt so connected to that. But yeah, that Twilight era lasted a long time. We had everything that looked like Twilight.
And I don't think it necessarily was like vampires and werewolves. Like, I still don't love reading werewolf books. I'm with you there, Christine.
Yeah.
I think it was the
Paranormal.
girl, the like urban fantasy, like paranormal.
It wasn't
urban.
even like, because urban fantasy, I feel like is more fantastical.
City life.
It was the paranormal love story.
The love story where it was like, this girl like needs to find her place in the world, and then this boy comes into her life, and he's like there's something mystical, magical about him,
and they're an asshole, but like there's some secret, and that's why they're a dick.
Exactly. And then then she gets like swept up in their world, and she's like, I want to be like one of you, and then.
Yeah, and there was like every brand of that. First, like we had the vampires, then the werewolves, then the angels, and like it just kept going.
Fallen angel romance.
Yeah. A Hush Hush was also one that I was like, no.
There was like Unearthly.
I couldn't read those. I did though until the second one, and I was like, can't finish it. That was 2010.
Yeah, because. I love a good vampire book, but I don't like the paranormal. There's a different type of vampire book that I like. And it's like a dark, I can't even think of the words I want to say. The
dark academia vampire?
Yeah, like dark academia vampires. Or Victorian-esque type of vampires.
The period piece vampires.
I love a period piece vampire.
And now, with everyone chomping at the bit for everything that looks and sounds like ACOTAR, like, I just see it happening with people that I'm friends with that have gotten really into reading, and I'm just seeing them read like 30 romantasy books that are like of the wrath and the blah, and I'm just like, I don't want you to get burned out of reading.
They will. It's sad because it's like we are trying to help them, but
you have to go through
They have to go through it to understand. But the thing
is, I know some of these people, the people that are our age, like I think they also rode the wave of like Twilight and stuff, and then crashed because of the same thing, burnout. Like,
and then they haven't picked up a book since ACOTAR.
Yeah, and then ACOTAR comes along, and then they get to reading again. Like, hopefully it sticks this time because like they find stuff in other genres to mix it up so that they don't get burned out. But like there's good books in every genre. And that's like the new reader thought process is like, I like this. This is all I like. And I don't want to, I need this feeling so I can't like stray from it. And I know it. And it's not until you pick up something different, you're like, oh, I also like this. What you like is like the characters and the themes and the arcs of like relating to you and all that. And that happens in lots of different genres. Just got to find a good one. But then we had the age of dystopia, and we all ended up having dystopian burnout.
Oh my. I feel like I never truly loved dystopian novels. I just loved the really good stories that came from dystopian novels because it had you really thinking about your society and how
very thought-provoking.
Yes.
Well, that's what we do. That is dystopia. Like that's why we like it. So like you do like that because it did shed so much light on like once we came around to like 2016 after having read The Hunger Games, we were like, whoa. Like I feel like when we're young we didn't see, and then once we like start paying attention to the government, it becomes really scary how much of a mirror of like different political things you're seeing in The Hunger Games and the themes and shit. Ugh,
Shots was like, but it was the same thoughts being provoked after a certain point.
It is. That's the thing. The Hunger Games did it really well too, so it's hard to even live up to those thoughts.
Yeah, we had like Divergent, of course.
But Divergent was different for me, and it still really stands out because it was it felt so much more about like her internal struggle than the external one for me. Whereas in Hunger Games, it's like it's about the Hunger Games and the external struggle of the government.
What other dystopian novels did you read?
Well, the Legend trilogy was really interesting because it kind of had a different take in terms of like, it made me really think about like consumerism and conglomerates and stuff, because the United States was split into like a militia, like military run section, and one that was literally run by the conglomerates. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Why would that ever happen? And then like I started seeing it in real life and I was like, oh, this is scary. Like there's so many monopolies that have so much control over everything because they're the ones funding different things behind different people in power. So that also made me think a lot. But by the time I got to the end of it, I had seen the trope too many times that was in the final book, and I wanted to murder it. So like the tropes that are extreme in the dystopian novels, like you start to see them over and over again. Like The Darkest Minds was also during that time.
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
it's a different kind of
the fifth
dystopian.
Wave.
It's like, yeah, plagues, a lot of plague themes. And I love the fifth wave. It was really well written. Ones that really started to burn me out were stuff like the fucking Maze Runner. Really not a fan of that one. But Champion is when I realized I had to take a step back. I was like, this is a good book, but I can't appreciate it because I'm too far in. I've read too many. And a palate cleanser during that time was fantasy. That was when Throne of Glass really like pulled me into I feel like a new obsession.
Yeah. I was trying to think back to that time. I think it was like sci-fis. Like that's when I started reading Red
Sci-fi
Rising.
It was Cinder.
Similar in a sense though. And yeah, Cinder. And I also got into like romance. Like I know we were calling it, I think, new adult.
Contemporary, yeah.
That's when I got into like the hating game and things like that.
I didn't touch on this, but like I was trying to figure out like the eras before we were like on the internet. And I was thinking about like 2001 to 2005, and I really think, at least for like the youths, it was like boarding school fantasies, like middle school aged fantasy novels. And because I wanted anything that would give me the Harry Potter feeling. And I remember finding like obviously like Roald Dahl, but like that was old, you know. But I also found like Half Magic and stuff, and Magic by the Lake, which was another one that I think was written in like the 70s or 80s. But like there were books that looked like Harry Potter all in the children's section of the bookstore. And I could not decide which one to read. I remember I would pick them up and I would try to read them, but they wouldn't be the same. It would disappoint me. And then I feel like in the adult world, 2006 to 2008 was like the Dan Brown era. It was like the Da Vinci Code, and every thriller looked like the Da Vinci Code at the bookstore. And I kept trying to read those, and I was like, they're not the same.
It's so funny how like one book will catapult a genre, and then other books will also fall in line with that. I was thinking during this time, like 2006, 2008, or maybe like 2004, 2008, in the YA section at least, there's a lot of like hometown romances, like Sarah Dessen, or like Sister of the Traveling Pants, or there was like this like Gossip Girl-esque book, because like Gossip Girl was a book and it got really popular. So then there was like the Click books or Pretty Little Liars. And Princess Diaries also did come before as well, and that was another like big YA novel before our time.
And I mean, and like it's really propelled by like the publishers, because they're like buying up anything that could possibly like be marketed like the popular thing. So it just like fills all of the, like right now when you walk into Barnes and Noble, all you see is Romantasy. It's everywhere on all the big things, like the lone things, just like all different Romantasy novels that look like the Sarah J. Maas books. It's wild. And so those are the only books that are really like shining until people start to get burned out. But
it's a trend. It's a trend. Yeah.
It's a trend, but like they're bound to happen, because like when we get excited about something, everyone wants more of that brand. And it's just, you just got to hope that like once they get burned out, everyone keeps reading. Like I want the reading to continue, like the new generation of people to keep reading. Cause I feel like right now more important than ever to keep reading. So after the dystopian burnout, we've been talking, Natasha was talking about how like we saw so much political change during like the 2016, the 2020 era. And then I was thinking about that when I was writing up this list, and I was like, that is when I started reading so diversely, and there was such a push to read diverse novels. So that really mirrored that. Like everything on the bestseller list was very much about like very much had a message about like social change. Like The Hate U Give was at the top of the bestseller list
for years
during that time, and it made such an impact. And I feel like contemporary in general really had a day in the sun during that time. And like so many POC authors and LGBTQ books really got to shine. And I feel like I learned so much about so many different cultures during that time. A lot of thanks to Booksplosion, because we're consciously trying to read diversely. So I was reading about so many different types of people. And like, I feel like we might be going into another era like that. What do you think?
I think so too. I mean, I do think like because of Booksplosion, I was also reading, and I think people who were reading alongside you, we were reading books with you. And during that time, I felt like I wanted to read differently. Like I wanted to explore and even read about people's like different sexual preferences. And I remember making a video where I was talking about romance, and I was like, I don't have a book on here that I can recommend that isn't a heterosexual relationship. And that was when it like took me back, and I was like, okay, I need to start actually reading books about different sexual preferences. And that was that time for me. But I do think we're probably going to go into another era after like this romantasy phase of people wanting to read more widely again.
Yeah. Even just like people wanting to read about like important things being mirrored in the books, because we're going to be going through probably we are in a tumultuous political era.
Oh, Jenny, because I was trying to figure out where to place Tiffio's The Fault in Our Stars.
Oh my God. So that came out in 2012. Yeah. And it did inspire a bunch of dying kids books. But I mean, like that wasn't like his intention, obviously, John Green writing that book. But of course it started a trend because it was really, really big.
I think like reading, when I started reading like Adam Silvera's books, that started opening me up to other things. Even like there's like a romance book that I read that that was heavily based on autism, which is the KISS quotient. And that even opened me up to learning about people like women with autism and how they can mask. And it was so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, books like Dear Martin by Nick Stone was like so important to me, being able to explain, I feel like, things to the white people in my life that didn't understand like the Black Lives Matter movement. Like Dear Martin was so good, and it's so short, it's so compelling. It's about this Black kid in high school who's like applying to colleges and his experience during his senior year. And just the thing, like people in his class being like, oh, you're only going to get in there because you're Black, like shit like that. And then like seeing his perspective and like hearing him talk about how racist it is to say that and why it's racist, because no one ever explained it, because like there was never like a movement like this to learn in my lifetime. It was so enlightening to be able to know exactly what to say when I hear people say things like that. Just reading books like Shadow of the Fox, A Very Large Expanse of Sea came out during that time by Tara Mafi, and it was about a high schooler who was Muslim during like right post 9/11 times. And like I was too young during that time to really think about how that affected Muslim kids in our society. But like these books are so important to people being empathetic and caring about other people, and that it's a huge epidemic that like so much of the country doesn't care about other people because they don't understand other people. They don't know any people who aren't like themselves. And if you don't get out of that bubble, you are like trapped in this like selfish mindset where you feel very self-righteous in your perspective. It hurts so many people around you and you're just oblivious to it.
I feel like Abby kind of reminded me of this, but I do feel like we've taken a step back from these types of books. And Laura does give a good point here where she says we've moved away from the Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda and the Hate You Give type of books and leaning more towards Legend-Born, Cemetery Boys, etc. Books with representation that celebrate more joy than the difficulties of having a certain identity. I feel like there's been more of a push for just having, like, as me as a plus size woman, I always want to read about a book where like my body and my weight is the center focus of why I've experienced so much grief. And we just want to find joy in us, in the escapism of seeing us in books, living in that fantasy world. But at the same time, there's been such, as Abby said, a surge of romantasy with just white characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that is very interesting to me, as there was such a push for own voices and things like that from like 2016 on. And we've kind of reverted back.
I think it's really interesting. Like getting older is so weird because you start to see the patterns. Like this is just what happens. Like we swing from one extreme back to the other, back and forth. And hopefully like the swings just get shorter so we're not as like extreme on either end. Right now though, it feels like we've swung extreme instead of like in the middle here. But yeah, we were reading so much about like issues and stuff that were so serious and deep and like moving and heavy that come 2020 there was this explosion of just like romance novels, which we needed. Like it was a dark time, we needed light novels. But then I completely agree, a lot of everything got very white again because we weren't thinking about it as much and weren't
very hetero
and we weren't making as much of an effort to be diverse. And it's and it is understandable. I feel like in 2020, like we're not really paying attention to that. We're just like, we want to get lost in something.
Want escape. We
want to escape.
Yes.
Yeah. We want to get out and we want to just be free for a second from the turmoil going on around us. But it does lead to like people new readers not being indoctrinated into like an empathetic mindset and learning about different people. But it's all like a cycle. Like I guess it cycles back and forth, and it's just important to be conscious that you are making an effort every few books to read something that's not like you. Like I think a lot of people who are new to reading might think that like that book isn't for me. It's not about someone like me. But like part of why reading is so beautiful is the ability to step into someone else's life. And so like representation is important for people to see themselves, but it's important for other people to read about marginalized people's lives and understand what their perspective is. So I think that has to be something that like we all keep in mind, because it slipped away in the last 4 years. And especially like not doing Booksplosion anymore, like every other month at least we're reading something about people who are different from us. And that is so important in times like this. Like I feel like there's just seeing how the election went. people that don't care about women and other people in this country.
It's just frustrating to see. And I think even I saw it in myself, right? Like I felt from probably end of high school on for me, because that was the YouTube career for us, and you like college on, I felt like, okay, I'm gonna read this book because I want to expand my mind. We were young and we were impressionable, and then I'm going to sandwich it in between like a romance book, and then 2020 hit and I was like, fuck all of that, I'm gonna just read romance.
Yeah.
But like
we were so depressed.
We just wanted to fill ourselves with those like happy endorphins and not have to feel
and it's okay to do that now too. I just feel like, yeah, we weren't paying any attention.
Yeah. At least for like my own experience, I wasn't. I think I still like to read romance books with characters that, you know, aren't hetero white characters, and I like to read more. Like I don't love reading even straight size characters anymore. Like I do like to read my own experience, but like finding joy in a plus size body as I've gotten older. But like I've kind of gotten a little like I just read like, and this has nothing to do, like everyone could read whatever they want, but for me personally, I just read like 4 smutty books back to back, and I was like, whoa, that was a lot for me. And like they're fun escapism books, but I need something where I can exercise my mind, or
more stimulating. I
can stimulate my brain and think, and not just go from one smut scene to the next smut scene. Like I need a good plot. That's where I feel like if people are just reading,
they're gonna get burned out.
Yeah, they're gonna get burned out on the smut. And sometimes you need a little bit of plot with that smut, or more plot.
Yeah. Well, the smut is best in books with a good plot. We were talking about this the other day, like when I first started reading The 3-Body Problem, my brain, like part of my brain turned back on, and I was like, whoa, I have been reading too much romance. Like I just haven't read something that has turned on my brain and had me thinking and really like digging into new concepts and stuff. And it was so refreshing. And it reminded me like of why I love other books. Like, why I love more complicated books. Like it's been so long since I've read anything like fantasy, because I've just been like too busy to kind of want to get into the world. And this was like a nice like dipping my toe back into something that had like more fantasy involved, even though it was really grounded and it was just like kind of background fantastical things. It felt so whimsical to be in a world where there was fantastical elements, and it made me want to read like a fairy tale. Last night I started Meg Schaefer's The Lost Story, and it's like an adult fairy tale. And I'm so excited to get more into it. I read the first chapter and a half, and I loved her other book, The Wishing Game, that I read at the beginning of the year. And it actually reading the beginning of her book made me think like, I do want to write like something fantastical a little bit. And just made me start thinking about like my book after book 5 and like, what will it be? And will I finally dip my toe in fantasy?
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. And so I think Alenka in the chat said something about like feeling pressure to write like what's burning at the time. And one of my points on this doc is just like, I don't think an author should ever write for what's popular at the time, because a book takes 2 years at least to get traditionally published. If you're writing indie, that's maybe a different story. But at the same time, like if you're in it, if the burning fad is happening right now, then by the time you finish your novel, it's probably fading. So I always just write what you want to write, what you're super passionate about. Don't steer it towards what you think other people are going to like. I think that's the wrong way to approach writing a book.
I think my three also said, I think uplifting authors who are writing diversely in romantasy is also extremely important as well. And I'm not going to lie, I get a lot of my recs from TikTok. And when I saw that The Immortal Dark was written by a Black woman and they're all Black characters, I was like, oh my God, I need to read that. Like, it was after my like 5-book smut binge. I was like, I just need I need to go into someone else's world and experience something that's new and different for me.
Should we do some recs from like POC authors that we read during like the 2016 to 2020 era? I wrote down like a bunch of really great ones.
Yeah.
And these are also like LGBTQ rep and disabled rep. I read like The Vanishing Half in 2020 by Britt Bennett. It's fantastic. It's about these two Black sisters that are like almost passable as white, and one of them lives as a white woman and the other one lives as a Black woman, and it's like the difference in their lives and stuff it's incredible. It's so well done, and we go back and forth between the two of them.
I have that downloaded in my audiobooks. I need to.
It's a great audiobook. Yeah. And then of course like Adam Silvera's books, great gay rep, and they're so good. And then The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. It's so good and so joyous, and she has that really beautiful, happy feeling writing style, but it's also about like it takes place in 24 hours, and it's such a huge day for both of the main characters. Like, the lead girl is Jamaican and her family's about to get deported, and she is like making a Hail Mary play to a lawyer in New York to try to help them not have to leave. And she meets this boy. His parents own a Korean hairdresser shop in New York City, and he's supposed to go for a college interview, but he doesn't really want to go to that college, but his family really wants him to go. And they meet each other and they spend the day together and they fall in love while they're like doing all these different things in the city. He comes with her to that meeting with the lawyer, and it's just like, it's so well done, and it's so cute and so wonderful and so important to like see from someone's perspective who's like about to get deported. It's so scary.
It's terrifying. Did you talk about A Curse So Dark and Lonely?
I didn't yet. Okay, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. The lead character has disabled rep, and it is a great fantasy novel, and it's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I loved it so much. The romance is great.
I feel like people coming off of like the romantasy hype with everything, and like if they've read all Sarah's books and then they read Fourth Wing, like I feel like there needs to be a diverse like fantasy book that like captures them again, and then we'll be like, okay, because it's like that's why you can kind of trick people. Sometimes people won't, if they finish reading Fourth Wing and Akatar, they're not gonna just go and read A Vanishing Half. You know, like
you have to be brought there with happy-go-lucky contemporaries and stuff. Like, but there are like great happy-go-lucky contemporaries about people of color.
Like we said, like, people of color who are is just joy.
Another one I wanted to talk about on this list was The Book Thief. Okay, The Book Thief was huge during this time, and it was like about the Holocaust. A girl during the Holocaust and like the books being burned, and I can't remember it anymore, but it was so good and so moving. Like, I haven't read a book like that in a long time. It's so important to read books about history from the perspective of people experiencing it too.
Oh yeah.
Because we don't want history to repeat itself, and that one was such a great one. And also all of Ruta Sepetty's books. She writes books about terrible things that have gone down in history, but like from the perspective of people in it who are also living their lives that you can like deeply relate to. And I feel like those books, more than any history book, have led me to like understand the past, because when you're reading history from the perspective of you now, you feel so disassociated from it. It almost doesn't feel real. And if you're reading it from the perspective of someone who's literally experiencing whatever it is, you learn so much more because you can put yourself right into their shoes, because it's like a person your age trying to like, you know, be with their family and be with their loved one and all that and experience romance, but this shit's just going on around them.
Shot says A Star Touched Queen by Rajni Chasky was some of the first South Asian rep I've seen in fantasy. And I even like The Wrath of the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh were also like some of my favorites I read at that point too. I know this is like a really big TikTok book, but The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It is a gay romance set during the Trojan War. Think Troy with Brad Pitt.
Nice.
It's a beautiful story if you haven't ever read it. It's a really good audiobook too.
I really love how Cassandra Clare has like woven a lot of different cultures and different types of characters into her fantasy novel, all of her fantasy novels. And I feel like we could easily see that in like bigger fantasy novels. Well, like Sarah started doing it too. So hopefully like these authors who are white with their big platforms also start to create more diverse casts in their stories. Obviously, it's not appropriate for the lead character to be a person of color if it's like a white author, but like the other characters can be from different cultures.
And have different sexual preferences.
And have different sexual preferences and have different like disabilities and things they're dealing with and health issues and all of that. Okay, well then that brings us to the explosion of the rom-com and then Romantasy. Do you think Romantasy started to gain more traction because people kind of started getting burnout from regular rom-coms, and then they started to discover fantasy?
I think
as
so.
Romance. Yeah.
I literally just saw Alex Cooper, who does the Call Her Daddy podcast, talk about, she's like, I really needed to escape from the election, and she started reading ACOTAR, and she's like, I just didn't think I would really like fantasy. Like, I'd never read fantasy, but then I read this and it changed my whole mind. And I feel like that is exactly what happened to everyone. Like, they got burnt out on Colleen Hoover, they got burnt out on all of these like romantic books, and they were like, I just need something like a little bit more plot driven.
Yeah. Or even just something different, because like there are very plot driven contemporaries, but like they're not having like magical stuff happening. It's like that adds a whole different level of
stakes are so high in fantasy books, and that's where you get some of these like more like these fun tropes that you don't necessarily get to put your characters in a modern world into. These women find these tropes that they really like. They're like, ooh, or women in whoever, doesn't matter. Everyone's reading, who found these tropes and they're like, okay, well, I want to read more of this in this world so I can have this same feeling again.
And I feel like in fantasy, it's more acceptable to have like a really problematic relationship because you're like, it's fantasy.
Because fantasy has always been an allegory. Is that the word? An allegory?
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 I don't know the exact definition of allegory, but yeah.
I feel like that's right. For our world, but using fantasy characters showing the different diversities in world. Like, that's what we saw in Lord of the Rings and what we've seen in Star Wars and Star Trek. And those are more sci-fi, but that's still science fantasy.
Yeah, it's all a mirror. And yeah, people who don't read fantasy are always like, that's not real. But like, yeah, it's all just, it's all mirroring things happening in our society, especially like the fantasies that have like heavy political plots going on. Shot says everyone just loves fairies, I guess. I don't think everyone loves fairies. I think everyone loves Sarah J. Maas's characters and they just happen to be fairies, and then fairies explode because people are like, fairies are in Sarah J. Maas's.
And the funny thing is that Sarah intentionally wanted to write more of the like Lord of the Ring elves, and said we just called them fairies because she's like, I didn't want to call them elves. Like, she literally said that when you did your Q&A at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. I know. And Yeah, and like I hate fairies. So it was like different when I read this. I was like, they're not really like fairies.
No, they're elves.
They're just they're like magical beings. Like they all have different sorts of like there's so many different types of fae in her world too. Like they span so many different types of species. So it's just a completely different system. But like I hated fairies. I hated fairies in Cassandra Clare's books. I hated fairies in Holly Black's books. I just like could not stand them. So like when we learn in Throne of Glass that there are fairies in the main cast, I was like, what? But then like you get to know them and they're not like that. It's not like they can't lie and they're like mean and cruel and
yeah, the fairies in Cassandra Clare's world just made you like hate them.
I mean, I've grown to not hate them as much through the Lady Midnight series because we get to know some fairies that aren't terrible, but they're still annoying. Like it gets to be more comedic when like Mark comes into the story and he's like half fae and Helen.
Shot says, honestly, the smut is the biggest fantastical element in these stories. Not gonna lie. I mean, and that's why we like it, because women, or you know, anyone, I keep just saying women, but they're treated so much differently, and you're able to experience mostly experience a like thoughtful romance where you're taken care of and your needs are met by a 500-year-old man, and that doesn't happen nowadays because it takes fucking 500 years for men to mature to meet us.
I was just like, I'm writing about this in my book, but I feel like we've come to a space where this is so popular that men know like what women's fantasies are and they take advantage of it. And I hate how they take advantage of it because like they don't actually want to be that man. They just want to use like, oh, I've read that book and I can like act like that fae temporarily to get you to have sex with me.
I have so many friends who have had their partners read books.
I feel like that's different if it's their partner. But if it's someone you're dating, or that has already read it, that's using it to get women, it's a different story.
I also have friends in the cosplay realm who just dress up as these characters.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I feel like it feels very like, again, taking advantage of like what women like its deepest like
it gives me the ick.
And fantasies are. Yeah. And I don't like seeing men who clearly I don't think they actually care about it. They just want women to think they're hot. I don't know where the line is when it comes to like, we want men to be like this, but we want them to figure it out them fucking selves. Just be like mature. Don't read these books with evil intent. I feel that's the thing. It's the intent when you read it. Like, are you reading it to relate to your partner and understand them better? Or are you reading it to get women to think you're hot?
Yeah. Like, have an open mind, come with a curious mind, and maybe you'll understand, instead of like, they'll read it and they'll be like, this is just porn. And I can't stand that take.
Porn.
I can't stand.
In what world? In what world? It's a complicated plot.
It's a complete lie.
I think the stress on talking about the smut as at the forefront of these books is also like contributing to this, because people just are, when people describe A Court of Thorns and Roses as fae porn, I'm like, there's not even a sex scene. What are you even talking about? It is a fantasy novel, strictly.
You basically, if you want the type of romance spiciness that you think you want, you have to read 4 fucking books or 3 books. You have to at least get to
the middle of the second book. Like, there's no porn. This is a complete exaggeration, and it's really like, because porn has a rep where you don't take it seriously at all, it's making the books like sound like porn. And it's not at all. It's a fantasy novel, so other people don't take them seriously.
I mean, I've also been a victim of this. I don't know if that's the right word, but like where I'm like, oh, what's the spiciness level? And I tried that out this year. I was like, okay, I'm going to read a 5 spiciness level, and I didn't love it.
I mean, like anything else, spice is great when it makes sense for the plot and the characters.
In our romance panel at Romance Con, Sierra Simone, who is a romance author, even said that the one spice scene in The Wall of Winnipeg and Me was the best scene that she's read in a long time because it's a slow burn and it's all earned.
No, yeah, it's just like everything else in a book. It's great when it's a great overall scene, a great overall story. It has everything in balance.
Katie says, I found my spice limit with Icebreaker. That was too much for me. I found mine with the Court of the Vampire Queen. Too much.
I feel like people who got into books because of spice may be thinking that they won't like books without it, but I guarantee you, if you're reading Sarah J. Maas, you like those books for more than the spice. There's so much more happening before you even get the spice, and most novels have a romantic thread line going through them, and it's quote spicy in different ways. There's fucking sexual tension up the ass in almost every single fantasy book that I love.
The sexual tension is sometimes way better than even the spice can be.
You will get the spice scene, well, the scene where the tension breaks, but it'll be like really earned and really exciting because you'll be so ready for it.
Like, if you all love Pride and Prejudice, what is our favorite scene? Our favorite scene is his little hand going.
The hand.
The hand scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative.
It is.
It exists in the context of where it is, right? I can't get the coconut line right, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, you're talking about Kamala's coconut tree?
Yes. Oh. You exist in the context of like your reality or where you were raised or whatever it is. Like every book, like the spice exists in the context of what you're reading. So like in Pride and Prejudice, that handbrush is spicy as fuck. Like, and that's how spice is in other books that like people don't rate as spicy. Like it doesn't have to be somebody like rolling around naked on the floor. It could be something else that is relative to what the plot is and what's happening between the characters that feels really spicy in the moment.
Do you think, though, I feel like this is another argument, though. I typically can't read, I can be wrong on this. I typically can't read a book that doesn't have, like, I'm not, like,
a romantic plot line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, with
every
my
book
eyes.
I like has a romantic plot line.
Yeah. And like I can't read it with my eyes. So like if I want to read, let's say 3 Body Problem, I know I'm going to have to get the audiobook because I'm not going to be able to get myself through it.
I just want to clear up and say that I don't think I would recommend reading 3 Body Problem as opposed to watching 3 Body Problem. Like I wouldn't be able to get through this book because it doesn't have much heart to it. Like I need heart. And that's what I'm looking for in a novel to keep me driven reading it.
That's true. Okay.
And that's like a lot of times that's romance, but like it can be like a really great platonic friendship or like a friend group and like they have their little romances going on. Like any of that is giving something heart to keep me invested. But with 3 Body Problem, the book, I don't have that connection.
Christine, I'm just using that as an example.
Okay. I just don't want anyone to read 3 Body Problem expecting it to be like easy or fun. It's not. If you watch the show,
I know.
It's great.
I'm just saying like I physically cannot like read with my eyes unless it's a pretty much like a romance book.
Yeah.
Like I don't think and besides like Harry Potter fan fiction or Raylo fan fiction, which I read with my eyes all the time, but now there's audiobooks, so that makes it a little bit easier. It's hard for me to get through a book without those elements in there.
But I feel like romance is in almost every single book.
Yeah.
there's like every story, if it's good and well-rounded, has some sort of romance going on in it, because that's what like keeps you pulling for them. Like you're pulling for the happy ending. Okay, well, I was going to wrap up with just like the idea of reading broadly makes our brains smarter. I feel like when I watch videos from times where I was reading more, I'm just like, wow, I sound better.
Same.
Like you can talk better, you know more things, you're more well-rounded as a human being.
This happens to me all the time because I feel like I've just been reading audiobooks or listening to audiobooks for a long time, but like being able to expand your vocabulary word bank, because sometimes I just watched a video on this on TikTok, but sometimes you have all these emotions and thoughts and you're like, you sound so articulate in your mind and you want the word to come out. And I just had this, like when I was trying to come out with like allegory, I'm like, what is that word? Reading is so important to like expand that vocabulary word bank.
And it happens subconsciously. Like a lot of words, when I was rereading the Harry Potter series for the first time, I was like, oh my God, I learned that word from Harry Potter. Like I remember the first time I saw it. And I was like, what is that? And you pick it up from context clues. And that just continues to happen. And now when I hear a word I really like, I will write it down in my notes app because I'm like, I want to use that word. Because once I use it in a book, I feel like it like really hardens in my brain.
I remember like learning the phrase the former and the latter. Where like, oh yeah, well, did she do this because of this or because of this and this? I'm like, oh, the latter. And I just used that yesterday with Taya.
I always learn, like, I feel like Cassie always puts in like at least one word multiple times in her books that I'm like, oh, what is this word? I look it up and then I just see it pop up like 3 more times and I learn a new word. And like I specifically remember the word foible. I learned from like the
how's that spelled?
Foible, and it's like little quirks. Like my foibles. I don't know. I just love how like random some of the words you pick up on are when you're reading books.
Ashley said she learned irrevocably from Twilight and loved it ever since.
It is a great word. Irrevocably just really like hits you.
So one of my favorite words from Jane Austen's books is intolerably. Like when she says you're intolerably stupid. So good.
Shayla says, I think books like Percy Jackson are a good example. The romance takes a lot of time, but it's still a big part of the okay, maybe you meant doesn't take a lot of time, but it's still a big part of the overarching character development, but it's not very present in the beginning books. Yeah, like, you know it's there. You know they like each other. You're waiting for it to happen. It's like underlined in the background. Okay, speaking of like Rick Riordan, he started really including a more diverse cast in his books, starting with Magnus Chase. And I just feel like it opened my eyes to a lot of different perspectives that I haven't been privy to. He had a gender fluid character in that series. And I had just never been in someone's head who was gender fluid and understood like their thought process in like a grounded way. And it was really eye-opening. And he has like a deaf character in there and a Muslim character. And they're just like, he's doing great things for like child readers, opening their eyes to all sorts of different people in this world in such a kind, joyous way.
Christine had us write down what is like, why is it important to read broadly? And I know we talked about like empathy, but I didn't get to say my one thing about it.
Yeah, say it.
So empathy is an emotion you have to develop. It's not something that you just feel like happiness and sadness and like, you know, you have to actually develop that. And you can only do that by living through other people's lives and learning about other people. And we can do that. The most easiest way is by reading. And I think a lot of people don't think this, but like empathy, I feel for me is one of the truest signs of intelligence, because if you put up those walls and you don't want to feel what other people feel, then you're really cutting yourself off from learning and from being open and
evolving as a person.
Exactly. I think that's just one of the biggest reasons why we should read broadly.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time when you were little that you read a book about someone who's really different from you? I kind of skipped over this, but I feel like it's interesting to like think back on that and like kind of think about how you were feeling when you read that. I remember the first time I was exposed to like people who lived in different places was reading those American Girl doll books and reading about Josephine. Is her name Josephina? I think she lived in Mexico. And I remember like at such a young age, it was just like, it was hard to even imagine the landscape, because what was I, like 8, 7? Because I'm not exposed to anything, but it does just like open up your mind to the fact that there are people living all over the world in different countries in very different ways. And I remember the first time it really hit a book about someone. I read Number the Stars, about a little girl during the Holocaust who had to hide with another family and then like escape was it Poland or whatever country she was in. And it was so moving and really, again, like I was saying about history, like it made me understand that on such a more human level than I ever did when people were just talking about it.
I mean, definitely reading Anne Frank was eye-opening. My mom had us watch The Color Purple at a very, very young age. This wasn't really like a book, but watching that movie like scarred me. And it was horrifying just to see what Black women went through.
Yeah, I have not seen The Color Purple. I need to watch that movie. I wanted to watch the new version.
The musical.
Yeah, that we were young when that came out. I feel like I wasn't like even in a realm to like know what that was when it came out, the Oprah version.
We watched it as a DVD, so I don't know what time it came out, and then from that point on when we watched it, but we were young. We were like 10.
It's great to read broadly, and it feels good. Like I feel like you just feel better about life when you have empathy for other people and you understand what they're going through more than you would if you hadn't like put yourself in somebody's story that was going through something similar. So
we just need more empathy. Everyone does. Can I read my metaphor that I wrote down?
Yeah, read. Where is it?
Okay, so one of my other like things of why you should read broadly. So sometimes if you need a little mind exercise, and a good book is like a good stretch for your brain. Reading can be an endorphin trip and a happy drug, like taking a walk at Disney. But sometimes you need a good Pilates class to work out other muscles in your brain.
Nice.
I was very proud of that one.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like stretching your mind is so important. And I feel like I just feel like also this is such a big issue with kids not reading. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to communicate well over on paper. That's literally how you learn to write, is reading. And reading broadly just makes you better at it. Makes you better. That's what Cassandra Clare's number one advice, if you want to be a writer, is always to read broadly, read everything.
I mean, I didn't want to write until I read Twilight, where I figured out, I'm like, oh, I can write something like this. That's empowering.
So many of us. Tamara says reading also gives you media literacy. All these people talking about the lack of media literacy, read books, people. Yeah. Reading makes you smarter so that you can decipher things and for yourself in a more efficient manner. Like, you know, to question things, you just know more. So you're more prepared when propaganda is thrown at you and people are gaslighting you. Like, you just are more aware. It really heightens your ability to decipher the world around you.
I I don't know what the year was, but like women weren't allowed to read until like the mid 1800s or something like that. Like it wasn't legalized that like we were meant to be taught to read, and like what a gift it is that we now are able to do that.
It's just men didn't want us to be educated because they didn't want us to want rights and be our own people. They wanted us to be their caretakers and sex people.
Yeah. All right. On that note,
let's move on to Marry Kiss Cliff. All right. So for Marry Kiss Cliff, we're lightening the mood here. Marry Kiss Cliff. Fantasy, dystopian, sci-fi.
I think I'm going to marry sci-fi.
Ooh.
Yes. I'm going to kiss fantasy and I'm going to cliff dystopian.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
I love sci-fi.
I know. I just like so much sci-fi. But it makes, I guess it does make sense. Dystopian's definitely getting clipped.
Yeah.
I'm going to marry fantasy and kiss sci-fi. Yeah. But valid.
Sometimes I just really need people to have technology, and you don't always get that in fantasy.
Yeah. You like Crescent City fantasy.
Yep. Which is sci-fi.
Crescent City is like everything mashed into one.
It's like an urban fantasy,
sci-fi and romance.
It's a lot.
It's everything. I really think Cassie's kind of like that. She doesn't really have a sci-fi aspect, but she has like period pieces and fantasy and romance and like an urban aspect, and like parts of it feel really contemporary. Well, that is going to be our episode. We hope that you enjoyed it and stretched your brain a little with us today. We release episodes every Friday. Our podcast is edited by Alex Polis, Natasha Polis, and Christine Riccio. Our socials are done by Chloe Laverson. Please make sure you're following us on at least one social platform. Instagram is where we're most active, at Those Forking Fangirls. And then we're also on TikTok, at Those Forking Fangirls. And our music's done by Cole Jenkins. Vocals are by Heather Troska. We're off to go record Fangirl Tea Time. We got lots of shit to talk about today. We've got like lots of stories backed up. So if you're a patron, look forward to that. And if not, we hope you have a really great weekend, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. I'm Christine.
I'm Natasha.
Bye.
Bye.